The Imo State Wildlife Facility was under threat at the verge of collapse like other eastern states' conservation facilities. The entire Imo State Zoo was already obsolete. The entrance was in a deserted condition with derelict buildings, consisted of empty and dilapidated animal cages. It was in a condition of free fall and losing its potential in all ramifications until Francis Abioye assumed the headship of Imo State. Francis Abioye, a conservation expert and wildlife advocate in Nigeria, came to Imo State for a mandatory youth service about 2 decades ago. He earned the NYSC Meritorious Award of the overall Best Youth Corps member with his Wildlife Conservation Project, where he led wildlife domestication training for youths across Imo State in 2003. Francis Abioye was employed in Imo State Civil Service and deployed to Imo State Zoo, where his passion for conservation led to the transformation of the Imo State. He rose through the ranks to assume leadership of the conservation facility and the management of Imo State Zoo. The vision to transform the zoo and make it one of the best in West Africa was vetted. He had worked to actualize this vision with a series of proposals to successive governors. The then governor, His Excellency Owelewo Charles Okocha, visited the conservation facility and tried to support the vision of its transformation. In 2019, when a new governor of Imo State visited the zoo,
and we are impressed with the potentials of the zoological gardens at Nekede. Mr. Abioye, we must commend you. You've shown reasonable mastery and understanding of the zoo at Nekede, and we're convinced from the guided tour we've undertaken and the explanations that the government makes a token investment here, it will increase the tourism potentials of the states. So we'll work with you. We'll work with you immediately to further give meaning to life for our people. And we're certain that if people come here for leisure and for relaxation, they will enjoy it. Head of service.
Yes,
you agree?
Yes.
So you'll be a visitor. Woman leader.
This led to the renovation and rehabilitation of all dilapidated animal cages, construction of historical and wildlife museum, and a new administrative building with digitalized system and CCTV in place to monitor visitors and animals' activities within the park. Semi-intensive free-range management system was constructed for delivery of expecting ungulates and other lower vertebrates. The modern facility was constructed to institutionalize acceptable best practices for keeping animals in zoos and wildlife facilities. Grass cutter multiplication, biogas technology, mushroom production, and fish farming were introduced. New animals were acquired such as sitantunga, elands, bushbuck, gazelles, Maxwell duikers, porcupines, different species of primates, ostriches, honey badger, jackals, variety of eagles, python, hyenas, lions, giant land tortoises, monitor lizards, different varieties of birds like geese, crown crane, peafowl, whispering ducks, German pigeons, variety of snakes such as viper, cobra, boreal pythons, etc. Different artifacts of animals can be seen inside the new Historical and Wildlife Museum, which provides visitors, students, and individual groups the opportunity to have a close look at the anatomy of the wild animals. The children playground and park were boosted with additional facilities. All these developments led to the increase of the idea of the zoo. The Imo State Zoo and Wildlife Park became an attractive place to visit for school pupils, undergraduates, and people from all over the state and neighboring states. To further establish the work of conservation in the state, Francis Abioye set up and inaugurated the first conservation clubs across secondary schools in Imo State and neighboring states in the southeast, with over 500 conservation club formations across the southeast region, the largest number in the history of conservation clubs formation by a single organization in the history of Africa. This provided 2,500 man roadwork for the historic World Wildlife Day event on the 3rd of March 2020 in Owerri, Imo State. Abioye, who is playing a dual role as both the general manager of Imo State Zoo and Wildlife Park and the national president of the Nigerian Association of Zoological Gardens and Wildlife Park (NAZAP), was able to host this event. This event was organized by NAZAP in collaboration with Nigerian Conservation Foundation (NCF), NESRIA, Federal Ministry of Information, Tourism and Culture, and National Park Service. Francis Abioye embarked on enforcement of extant wildlife conservation law by arresting and prosecuting people found to be involved in illegal trade of endangered wildlife species. They were arrested by the principal wildlife conservation officer and all animals, and the body parts of all endangered species found with offenders were confiscated, and these animals were rescued from their hands. Most of these cases were charged to court with collaboration of Nigeria Zonal Office in Imo State. Abioye's advocacy for curbing illegal trade of endangered wildlife species needs to start from each local community with NASAP regional advocacy group across the country. Confiscated chimpanzees for rehabilitation. Francis Abioye with his management was able to record successful captive breeding of rare species, most of which occurred for the first time in the history of Imo State Zoo. He recorded captive breeding of ostriches, gazelles, giant tortoises, grasscutters, dwarf and giant night crocodiles, guinea fowl, peafowls. 43 baby pythons were successfully delivered in Imo State Zoo and Wildlife Park for the first time in the history of Nigerian zoos. Above all, he was able to record successful delivery of numerous hyenas cubs. The progress being experienced at Imo State Zoo and Wildlife Park was severely threatened by the host community and some of the top political interests who would stop at nothing to convert Imo State Zoo and Wildlife Park to individual estate properties. Abioye offered great resistance and also rejected offer of 20 million naira bribe and 4 plots of land in the eyebrow location of the present Imo State Zoo. His blunt refusal to be compromised led to direct attacks on him and court cases. At this juncture, the Nigerian Conservation Foundation led support to Abioye's defense in court by hiring a lawyer to support the government lawyer who was appointed to defend him. During this period, the conservation area was set on fire 3 times by unknown individuals. The first fire outbreak was on early Saturday morning, 3rd of November 2019. It took the rapid response of the men of the fire service to quench the fire.
Please don't stand. Just be doing something. As you are busy doing something, we are overcoming the fire. Please don't stand. Don't let us give up. Don't let us give up. Do the best you can, please.
In December 2020, the painstaking efforts of the Zoo and Wildlife Parks management and staff was rewarded with successful captive breeding of West African lion. The lion cub was later named Roy during its naming ceremony a month after its delivery. This is the first time such amazing feat was experienced in the history of Imo State Zoo since 45 years it was established. The lioness in Imo State Zoo relaxing with her cub. This was achieved at a critical period when the state wildlife facility was not funded during the COVID-19 lockdown without visitors' patronage. Abioye was spending his personal money, including borrowed money from his trusted friends, to ensure that all captive animals do not die under his watch. He personally took responsibility of weaning the cub, bathing and feeding. Roy became friendly to him. The cub would always give him pecks after each bath. Roy later became friendly to the public and was used for conservation awareness campaign in the southeast region. The friendly Roy was adopted and its house renovated by Omobiko Lion Preservation Foundation and Justin. The first time such will happen in the southeast. Chief Omobiko was committed to a monthly payment for the lions feeding in Imo State Zoo and Wildlife Park. Abioye cuddling a tatarlus monkey with 2 newly born hyena cubs, and the new commissioner, Honorable Mazi Uche Oya, standing. At the peak of this transformation, the funding problem persisted with post-COVID-19 pandemic effects, followed by movement restriction as a result of insecurity in Imo State by unknown gunmen. The lockdown stopped people's patronage to the wildlife facility, whereas the only road that leads to the Imo State Zoo was eroded, cutting out the major source of revenue to maintain the zoo and feed the animals in absence of regular monthly funding by government. Unfortunately, a new commissioner was appointed to the Ministry of Tourism in April 2021, who was not passionate about the continuous survival of Imo State Zoo. He also does not have regards for the commitment of Imo State Zoo management team. It was not yet certain if the commissioner's undue interference on adoption of the lions made the Omobiko's foundation to stop his monthly support, since the commissioner was busy asking so many questions on the adoption of Imo Zoo lions. However, it was noticed that the support stopped only when he suddenly stopped asking questions after linking up with Omobiko without the knowledge of Imo State Zoo management. The feeding of animals became a big challenge as the commissioner began to query all sacrificial efforts of the zoo management to source for funds to feed government animals. He maintained that wild animals can survive without food for a month. Also, the commissioner vetoed all opportunities invested by Imo State Zoo management to either sell surplus animals worth up to 4 million naira or opportunity to offer a lion show to promote conservation awareness for 1.4 million. He further paralyzed the day-to-day operation of Imo State Zoo management and also demoralized all workers whose several months of wages have not been paid. He bluntly declined all opportunities to pay them and maintain all the animals. Abioye has been stretched beyond elastic limits that he could no longer afford to feed the numerous animals either with personal money or borrowed funds, since the deficit incurred is summed up to above 8 million naira. His trusted friends who had borrowed him money also became uncomfortable after 18 months without any assurances of repayment or readiness of the commissioner to show any consideration. Animals started suffering from starvation. The zoo started losing animals on a daily basis. The Imo State Zoo and Wildlife Park has lost up to 30% of its animals to starvation due to lack of funding. The more they send the report of dead animals to the commissioner to see if he will reverse his steps, his response is that even human beings are dying so animals can die. He will say all manner of detestable things against innocent animals like even human beings are hungry so animals can starve. This is how the interrogation of Imo State Zoo graduated to the level of cannibalism among the endangered captive species. The animals in Imo State Zoo and wildlife parks are dying in large numbers. Sadly, the principal conservation officer, Francis Abioye, broke his waist during one of the emergency intervention on Sunday evening to source for food on credit for all zoo animals who had not eaten for 3 days in his usual customs. There was no one to load the bag of sweet potato that he bought except him and the woman who sold to him. They both lifted the bag of potato while he exerted more force to complement the woman's strength, and he broke his waist in the process. Francis is currently on a wheelchair in the hospital. The most touching story is the fact that lions in the zoo were starved to skeleton with their cub, while the nursing hyenas were fed by casual workers out of their deep poverty to prevent infanticide. The lion became so weak that they could not pursue their prey except they were killed for them. It is amazing that Francis Abioye, in his present condition, continued to plead for support for the suffering zoo animals instead of himself. The Nigerian Association of Zoological Gardens and Wildlife Park have started donating to the distressed Imo State Zoo. A car was donated by Omu Resort. It is a sad fall for a once shining and flourishing Imo State Zoo. A society that cannot be kind to animals can hardly care for fellow humans. Francis Abioye.